Okay, so we're in chapter 5, and we're talking about databases. We're not just talking about databases, we're using databases. So just to review and talk about what is the dominant form of databases in the world? What is the form of database that we're working with? We work in Access. And it's the same thing that's used in Oracle, in DB2, in MySQL. What is the form of database I'm referring to? What type of databases are they?
Relational.
They're called relational databases. And that's the structure that we're seeing here. And one of the important things to understand is how it all comes together. And we refer to that as the hierarchy of data. Hierarchy of data starts at the bottom when we start talking about bits. Bits are what? Ones and zeros. Bits come together to form what? What's the next level up? Bytes. Bytes can represent characters. Characters represent like words or columns of data. Columns represent rows. Rows come together as tables. And then we relate tables together, right? The relationships via a primary key and a foreign key. And that builds what's called databases. Okay, and there's metadata around that as well. So all those things, you know, we're trying to build up. And when do I use a database versus a list? Is when we're trying to store information about multiple themes. So we kind of covered all of those things. Now, we're going to go back into Access today. So hopefully you brought your laptops. I don't know if I told you to, but I apologize if I did. But we're going to go back into Access today. But we're also going to talk about something called a database management system. And it's the system that is around the database. The database itself, if you think about it, is just kind of the database, the data that's stored on the drive and the structure of it. But there's some software around it that helps us control it, okay? Helps us interact with it, helps to make sure that we don't have redundancy issues or contention issues. And that's called the database management system, and Access is an example. Database management operations that we do, obviously read, insert, modify, and delete data. We talked about SQL. We're going to look at that today as well. And we also said that database applications, which are applications that we build on top of a database, typically have these aspects. Forms, and we'll build some forms today. Forms are a visual way, a better way of us interacting with a database, okay, or a database table. Reports, which is a more structured way to look at data than a table or a list. And we're also going to talk about queries, which is a question, a language, and application programs. Okay, so how do database applications make databases useful? Remember, databases are just tables, relationships, and metadata, but the real power of them comes from our ability to interact with them, to ask them questions, to report on the information, to drive down into the data. That's where the usefulness comes from. And the database management system helps me because we can look at the database application, look at forms, reports, queries, and application programs. So this is what a form looks like. You know, I know we've all seen forms before. This is what a query looks like. We're going to run some queries today. And we're also going to see some reports. And this is what a report looks like. Okay? So that's all I want to go through conceptually today. But I'm going to spend some time going through Access, and we're going to look at some of these other things that we didn't get a chance to look at Monday. And as well, I don't know if you guys noticed, I put another assignment out on Blackboard under assignments, and it's a Microsoft Access assignment. We'll go through that today. Maybe if we have time, we'll start that. It's not due until a week from today. So I know it's due after break, but that doesn't mean you have to wait till break to do it. Okay, you can do it starting today and be done with it before break. We're off Monday, Tuesday. We're back Wednesday. It's due Wednesday at midnight. So even if you forget about it through break, you have a day to do it, and it shouldn't take that long. So anyways, let us review where we are at with our database. So if you have your laptop, and I'm hoping you do, I would like you to bring up your Access. So some of us have 2013, and some of us have 2010. And we want to open up whatever you called the database that we started to build on Monday. I called mine Miko Interactions, and I stored it on my desktop. If you don't have it in your recent, navigate to where you stored it, double-click on it, and it'll pick the proper program to open it, and it should be Access. Okay, so we have something that looks like this. You guys here? Okay. So if you recall, we built two tables. We built interactions and student. Let's look at student. I'm going to double click on it. And we started entering data. This is known as data sheet view because this is the actual data that I'm entering into the table. If I change the view to design view, we can see the structure of this. You know, we have student ID, which is known as what type of key because it uniquely identifies every row, is the primary key. We have first name, last name, major, enroll date, phone, gender. And we also have, okay, the other table we have is interactions. So we have interactions between students, and those interactions are between professors and students, and those interactions can include email, face-to-face, and phone. Before we entered the data, and I'm going to X out of that because I didn't want to go to that yet, we built the relationships. So if I go over to database tools, and I go to relationships, you see we built this relationship. And this is called a one-to-many relationship because one student, we can have many interactions with one student. That's the infinity sign means many. So we could have 7 face-to-face interactions, 1 phone call, and 1 email from a given student. One student, many interactions. So the next thing I asked you guys to do was to enter some data. Did you guys do that for homework? Did I tell you to do that for homework? No? Okay, well let's enter. Some people are shaking their head yes, and some people are lying to me. So let's go in and start entering some data. So I'm going to enter some student data. So let's go into data sheet view. And what's that, Christine?
My thing won't come up as like the 2 boxes anymore.
2 boxes? What do you mean by?
How you had it before.
Like the relationships?
Yeah.
Under database tools, relationships, like this?
Under. There it is. Thanks.
Okay. All right. We don't want to be on there anyways right now, so just X out of relationships. We built that relationship. We only have to do it once. X out of that. What we want to do, though, is enter some students. Okay? So we can't have relationships with students unless the students exist first. Okay? So we want to enter some students. So I'm going to enter myself as a student. I'm going to go down and enter, let's see, I'll do a 111, and that'll be, I'll enter my wife. An input mask are nice to make sure my data is all right. And let's see, I'll enter one of my sons. So I'll enter 3 students, whatever these students, you know, whatever make up students, but enter 3 students. You good? And then when I'm done, I'm just going to close students. And I didn't click save, but I don't need to click save because it's a database and it's saving as I go along. So if I double click, you see, you know, my students are still there. I'm entering students, and I have those 3 students. Now, I want to go to the interactions table, and I'm going to tab over. And because interaction ID is the unique primary key for interactions, but I don't have to enter it. You remember it was auto number, okay? And this one is interaction student ID. So I'm going to enter 1, 2, 3, 4. okay, because this is an interaction with John Miko. The date of that interaction was, let's say today, what is today, the 16th?
15th.
Thank you, 15th. And it was subject, class, and the interaction type was face-to-face. Now, that doesn't have much information about the student, does it? It doesn't have anything but 1, 2, 3, 4. That's okay. Why is that okay? Why is that okay? Because they're linked. Because 1, 2, 3, 4 points to that student in the student table where all the information exists about John Miko, right? So now think about it. It's not redundant information, right? It's not redundant. I keep it in one place and one place only. So if it changes, I change it in one place, and then everything that points to it points to a new version of it, right? That's the beauty of a relational database. So let me enter another interaction, and this time I'm going to enter, let's say, 5555. And I'm going to try to enter a date, so I'm going to say 15/2014. It was also regarding a grade, and let's say it was an email. Okay, now when I tab to try to go to the, or hit enter, try to go to the next line, it says you cannot add or change a record because a related record is required in table student. What is it complaining to me about? What's the problem here? What's the issue? Ian?
There's no student that connects to that.
Right, I'm trying to enter 555 and it says, hey, there's no student number 555 in the table. So you're trying to point to an interaction with this imaginary student that you don't know anything about. Before you have an interaction with this student, you have to add the student, right? Now hopefully all the students are already there, right? And that's the beautiful thing about relational databases is as you guys come in through the process of admissions, right, there's a student table that's built for you, and it can be used by, it can be used by the police, it can be used by the registrar's office, it can be used by SAO, OrgSync, by, the whatever, okay? Maybe when you're alumni, we still use that record. Now it changes, right? You get married, your name changes maybe, your address changes, your financial situation hopefully changes a lot. Okay, so those kind of things change, but your record hopefully exists for you forever, right? Okay, think about it. And we keep utilizing it a different way. So I'm going to have to change that. So I'm going to make this an interaction with, yes?
When I try to go down to put on the second line in interactions to type, it won't let me type or delete anything.
What do you mean it won't let you type or delete? I'll have to see. Who said Jessica?
It won't let you go down at all.
Okay, so did you get a message that says you cannot add? Jessica's getting a message. Did you get a message, Katie?
No.
It says you cannot add or change a record because a related record is required in your table. So
No, I can't even type in the second.
okay, well let me look at it. But let's see, interaction. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so when you enter, see your relationship here? You tie interaction ID to student ID. Student ID should be tied to student ID. So it's looking for that interaction ID of 1 in student table, and it's not in there. So that's your issue. Let me see here. What are you saying?
I can't, when I press here to type in.
Okay, that is auto number, so it's saying I'm going to number for you that automatically.
Okay.
So it's just going to go with the next sequential number.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
taking it out of your hands. That's why you can't type it. It says, I'm just going to pick the next number. So that's why it's saying that. So I'm going to enter another interaction here. What Katie was saying is, how come I can't enter into this one? Because it's auto number. It's saying, I'm just going to pick the next sequential number for you. I'm taking that out of your hands. So I can't remember what was another student I had. Was it 333? Now let's do another interaction with 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so a couple things. We should have now I entered a few students and a few interactions with those students, and hopefully you were able to do that. Now, do we want people that use our database to enter into a table like the way we just did? You know, if we're building this, rolling this out as a business application, do we want people to look at the raw data like that? That's kind of like being the back end. So what would we rather use for the people to enter data into? What would we rather use?
Excel.
Okay. Well, Excel is a bunch of, but I'm talking about what component of a database application would be a better tool to enter data. It would be a form. Okay, so let's build a form. Okay, this isn't part of your assignment, but I do want you to know how to do it. So I'm going to go up here to create, and you see there's tables, queries, and forms. Let's create a form, and I'm going to use the form wizard. Why not? If I have a wizard at my disposal, let's use a form wizard. So let's go to form wizard. You guys see that even in 2010? Does it look similar, Frank? Mm-hmm. Okay, so go to form wizard. And it says, all right, what do you want to build a form for? And I'm going to build a form for the table student. And it says, what fields do you want on this form? So I use the drop down to go to student. I don't know if you guys noticed that. And it says, what fields do you want on this form? I'm going to put them all over here. So the double arrow will bring everything. That's like a big dump. And the single arrow would bring one at a time if I wanted to pick and choose. But I want to bring them all over. So I'm going to go with the double arrow. I'm going to click next. It says, what do you want your layout to be? I don't know how to say, I know that means columns, but how do you say it? Columnar? That sounds awful. Columnar. I think if you say it right, you'd sound real smart, but I'm not saying it right. Columnar. No, that's probably not it either. Okay, so I think we'd want it as, let's do it as columns. Yeah, let's do it as columns. What do you want to your form to be called? Student entry form. And then I'm going to finish. Okay, now on the left navigation, okay, you will see I now have tables, 2 tables we built in this database application, students interaction, and now we have a form, okay, the student entry form. And this looks a lot better, does it not? Okay, now we have, you know, here's a, yes, go ahead.
Mine's not the same as yours.
When you say it's not the same, you mean?
Less like columns or whatever.
Let me see, Katie. You have a form?
Yeah.
But it doesn't have, it has.
Oh, yours is weird too.
Okay, you build a form based on interaction. I build a form based on student. So that's fine, you can keep that form, but build another one based on student.
I have a form, I don't have the tables inside.
Okay, let's see. So this, I'll show everyone this in a second. Oops. This saying, what do you want to see? You see, all you have is like this table. If we want to see all objects.
Oh, cool.
Okay. So, you got it, Katie?
Yeah.
All right. So, Katie said, the one Katie said, she doesn't see forms over here. And that's because we can filter what we see on our left nav, this little drop-down arrow. If I click on it, I can have all access objects, which shows me everything that I've built. Or if I wanted to just see the forms, I could just see the forms. If I wanted to see just the tables, you could just see the tables. But I want to see all access objects because, if you have a big database application, you're likely to have, maybe dozens of tables and maybe, dozens of forms and maybe hundreds of queries. And you don't want to see all those things at once. You know what I'm saying? So that's just as a designer, just like you only want to be concerned with certain things at a certain time. Okay? So let's just spin through this. With the people we have in here, and it goes by, it looks like it's in ID order, which makes sense. We have my wife, we have me, we have one of my sons, and if I go to the next one, let's use this to enter another student. So I'm going to enter 555, and I'm going to call him Joe Smith, and MKTG, student enroll date, 01/01 or 1995. Student phone. I guess I should have made that smaller. That looks ugly, doesn't it? So 01 or 814. I should probably adjust that. And then student gender, I have my little drop down. And if you want this little deal over here, new blank record, will give us a new blank record. We can start entering another person. I'm going to X out of that. And why don't we build a form to enter interactions as well? I think Katie has already built one, but let's all build a form for the interactions table. So go to Create Form Wizard. And this time we want the table interactions. We're going to put all the fields over there. Interaction ID, interaction student ID, interaction date, subject, and type. Click Next. Let's pick, I don't know, let's pick another format. I'm not sure exactly what this will look like, but let's try Justified. Click Next. And we'll call this the interactions entry form. So it's a little bit different style. So here are the interactions I've entered so far. Here's interaction 1, interaction 2, interaction 3. I want to create a new interaction, and it's going to be with that student I just added, so 555. Interaction date is 01/01/2013. The subject is weather, and the interaction type is email. Bless you. Okay, so you see how forms provide us a better window into our data, a more user-friendly, human-friendly window into our data. And I'd want to change some things, like obviously interaction type doesn't need to have that big of a window, and you saw on phone we didn't have to have that big of a window either. Katie?
Is it a problem that my interactions go 1, 2, 3, and then 9?
No, it's not. Now what that is if I go into interactions, okay, and let's say I delete this record. I just right-clicked on it and delete this record, right?
Okay.
So I delete record 3. You're about to delete one record. Is that okay? I'm saying yes. And now I enter the next one, and let's say this is 555. Oops, that should be 4 5s, I think. 4 5s. 01/20 or 14 2012. But what I want you to notice, what I'm trying to show you here, I'm having trouble entering my data. But what I'm trying to show you here is mine now goes 1, 2, 5. Why does it go 1, 2, 5? Because 3 and 4, it already reserved, and I deleted 3, and 4 it must have thought I was entering 4, reserve 4, so it throws out 5. Numbers are free, right? It can go up to 1 to a billion, it doesn't care. So it's deleting it, but it's saying, well, why would I put that confusion out there? Why would I have an old interaction named 3 and then a new one, right? If I modified it, so that's not a problem. The auto number takes care of that for us. And a lot of times, for a primary key, auto number is the way we want to go. Katie?
Mine is going like straight down. Like yours had like the smaller boxes across and then some down. Mine's like ID, internet, like all straight down.
Okay. Because you said probably when you designed your form, so you're an interaction entry form?
Yeah.
Okay. Go to the view here and go to, I don't know if it's layout view. No, maybe it's design view. I think we'd have to go back and use it. But you probably said instead of, I think I put justified for layout, you probably left it as columnar.
I changed it just different.
Does it look more like the first one?
Uh-huh.
Okay, well, I'm not sure, but I'm thinking that's probably what happened, okay? But you can still enter all the forms, right, Katie?
Yeah.
Okay, all the fields. That's the important part. Okay, so that's forms, okay? That's one thing we can do to kind of pretty this up. The next thing I want to show you is something called a query, okay? So let's go to create. And a query is what? What is a query? Query means it's a question. It's a question of the database. Now, if you think about it, my data is stored in these distinct tables. In this case, I have 2 tables. I have students and I have their interactions. But when I want to make sense around it, I want to see all those things together, right? I want to see all those things together. So let's build a query, and I'm going to use the query wizard because I think that makes most sense. So click on Query Wizard. And let's do the simple query wizard. 2010 look the same, Frank?
Yeah.
Okay, do simple query wizard. Click OK. And it says, all right, well, what do you want to bring together? Well, let's say I want to see the date. Let's see, I want to see the student ID. I don't care about interaction ID. That doesn't add any value, right? A 1, 2, 3, or 5. I want to see the date, the subject, and the type. Okay, the only problem with this is that's just showing the interaction component. What 1, 2, 3, 4 makes no sense to me. So what do I want to show along with 1, 2, 3, 4? The student ID 1, 2, 3, 4 gives me no information as a human. I want to see the name. Well, where is the name stored, Rodrigo?
And student.
Okay, so I want to also click down, and I'm going to add to this query not just fields from the table interaction, but fields from the table student. So come over here and add student first name, student last name, and let's say gender. Okay. And click next. And let's call this, I don't know, let's call it visit interaction query. I guess that's what it was called already, but that's fine. And let's say modify the query design. and click Finish. Okay. So what it did for me is it brought all these things together. Okay, so this is another way to design a query. It showed me the design view basically when I said modify. I could have ran it and would show me the results. But at this point, it showed me the design. Okay? Let's say I want to put, well, let's just run it at this point. Okay, let's just run it so you see what it returns. So go up and click on, see this exclamation point that says run? Click on run. So it'll run this query and it shows, the 4 interactions that I had were with, looks like 2 with Joe Smith, 1 with John Miko, and 1 with Lucas Miko. Okay. Now, when we answer questions of databases, we usually don't say, give me everything. We don't usually say like, okay, show me every student interaction. We're usually looking for subsets of that. We're usually asking for things like, I don't know, show me all the juniors that play athletics that have a GPA less than 3.0 because we want to remediate them or something to that effect. So let's change this query a little bit and go up to View, okay, and go back to Design View. Let's say I only want to see face-to-face interactions. Okay, I only want to see face-to-face interactions. So I'm going to go in here to Criteria, and I'm going to put how do I want to do this? F2F. Oh, that's the wrong field. That should be in, yeah, that's right field. Okay. And let's see if we run it, if it worked. Yeah. Okay, so if I go back to Design View, you'll see now instead of, I had 4 records before, but now I only have 2 records, and I only have the ones that are face-to-face. If I wanted face-to-face and maybe, I don't know, for males, I think they were all males anyways, but I could put M there. So I only want interactions for face-to-face interactions with my male students. It's getting creepy. I could click Run, okay? And now I have that. Now what that's building, okay, this is very much the front end. What this is building behind the scenes is what was the language I said we use to interact with databases. When I speak to you because you're American, I speak English. If you were from Spain, I'd speak Spanish. If you were from France, I'd speak French. When I interact with databases, what language do I speak? Ashley?
Structured query language.
SQL or structured query language. What this design is doing is actually building SQL behind the scenes. So if I click on this drop down by views and I go to SQL view, let's see what the language looks like that is interacting with the database. This is the language that we built, by using a GUI interface or a graphical interface. It says, and I'm going to, it's very hard to read there, I think, but it says select from the interactions table, interactions date, interaction subject, interaction type. From the student table, we want student first name, student last name, and student gender. And it says from these 2 tables. And what that is doing is joining those 2 tables together. Okay, if anyone took database management, you'd work on these things called joins. We're joining those 2 tables together. Basically, we're using that relationship that we established to say, hey, if it says 1, 2, 3, 4 here, go to the student table, and that's how we join that record to that record. So select is a component of the SQL statement. From is a component that says what tables are we getting this data from. And where is a criteria. Okay, so it says where interaction type is equal to face-to-face, and student gender is equal to M. We could have also easily put in here where, if we had GPA less than 3.0, we could put criteria in there and look at different subsets. But this is the query it's building. Okay, does that make sense? This is the query that it's building. This is the question of the database, and this is the language. If you are an MIS or computer science, you may go on an interview and they would ask you, do you know SQL? It's like if you're going to take a job in China, they'll say, do you know Chinese? If you are a technical person, they'll want to know, do you know SQL? Can you interact with database? Do you understand this? Now, for a business professional, you don't necessarily need to know SQL, but you need to have an inkling of what the hell SQL is and what we can do with it. And that's kind of what I'm trying to show you here. So that is a query. Okay, let's X out of that query. The next thing I want to, yes, I want to save the changes, so let's save the changes. The next thing I want to create that's part of a database application is a report. And this is probably the least exciting thing about the database application is a report. So let's use the report wizard. Why not? Let's use the report wizard. And we're going to create a report. And we're just going to create a report from that query we just designed. So when we run that query, remember it returned the results how? In a data sheet view, right? Which is a table, which is kind of ugly and crappy. So I'm going to say when I run this report, I want to use this query, and I want everything from that query put into my report. And further, let's click next here. I want it sorted by student. Okay, so I want it sorted by student. I want, do I want any grouping levels? Yeah, let's group it by student ID. What sort order do you want? Let's say sort order is, let's leave it alone. We'll just leave it in regular. Click next. Yeah, that looks good. That kind of format. There's different formats, blocked, outline. Let's use stepped. Let's click next. Let's call this a student interaction report. And let's preview the report. So I click finish. Okay, and it runs the report. Now this is a report. It has, and I could design this, it has a title, like a heading. You know, the table didn't really have a heading, right? This will have page numbers if I wanted to have page numbers. It will have, you know, different formatting criteria if I wanted to have different formatting criteria. Looks like I have an issue with my date field. Looks like I need to expand that space, so I could do that in design view. But I only have 2 interactions I believe I'm showing in this. So it's kind of limited, but a lot of times in reports we're looking at thousands of records. I mean, we can use the reports and queries to group things together and put it in a format that we can see. You see up at the bottom, up the top as well, we could export this to Excel. We could export it to a PDF. We could also email it to someone and say, this is the data I found for you. All right. Any questions on anything I show you? So this is, you know, a class and a half of Access. Now, can you put it on your resume? I don't know. Depends how you write on your resume, right? Put it on like a, I don't know how you write, maybe a working knowledge of Microsoft Access or familiarity, that's probably better, with Microsoft Access. You can't put down expert level or anything like that, but you can say, I understand the basic structure of databases. That's important in the business world, right? It's important that they say, well, you know, you have some of that ability. Now, what I would like you to do, I'm going to save this and exit out of it. But here is our assignment. So we have about 7 minutes, so I'm going to use those 7 minutes to go over our assignment. If you go to Assignments in Blackboard and go to MS Access Assignment and click on MS Access Assignment Fall 2014. And it should bring up a Word document that contains your assignment. Huh, something wrong with my running fryer there. He got deleted somehow. Okay. I want you to build a database. So from start to finish. And remember, I recorded all the last day and a half. So if you're lost or confused, rewatch the video, right? I stepped you through this exact same process. It's like I'll be there with you, kind of. That's also creepy. But I want you to build a database that has two tables in it. Students and residents. So one is going to, two things we're storing. We're storing information about students, and we're storing information about residence halls. And guess what? Every residence hall has many students assigned to it, right? Like Lewis Hall has 150 of the best gentlemen we've ever seen assigned to it right now. Yes? Okay? That is what we're going to do. So, I give you some basic specs. In the student table, I want these fields. Student ID, okay, long integer, student first name, last name, address, city, state or province, country, home phone, cell phone. Both phone numbers should be masked. Remember the mask, the input mask we use? So that I enter into it and it's 814-555-1212, yes? Remember that input mask we looked at? Why are you guys looking at me like we never did it? Yes, we did it. If not, watch the video. Email, Twitter ID, GPA, which GPA is going to be a number like 3.5, so it's single. We don't store that as an integer because you don't just say my GPA is a 2, or a 3. It's like 3.6 or 2.6. Student work study income is currency. Gender I want to be a combo box with M or F, meaning male or female. Remember that was also in that lookup, and we talked about combo box. You guys remember we did that for gender. And res ID. Res ID is a foreign key that points to the primary key, res ID here. So there will be a res ID for Lewis, a res ID for Giles, for Ave, for St. Clair. I also want you to build two fields of your choosing, meaning what else do you think we might want to store about students? You pick, you design. So that means everyone's table will be a little bit different because everyone will have two fields at the end that are by their own design. Do you want to store, I don't know, Twitter ID? Well, we already have that stored. Whatever. Sport, hometown. I don't care. But you need to store two fields that you make up. Favorite artist. I don't care what it is. Okay, but you need to store two fields of your choosing. For the residence, the table, we have a residence ID. Notice that's auto number. That's going to be a sequential number that is automatically generated for you. The residence name, that's going to be like Giles, St. Louis, Claire. The build date, when it was built, the capacity of it, and when the quiet hours begin. So that's going to be in time format. So you're going to build those tables first. The second thing you're going to do, you're going to build the tables first, then you're going to build the relationship. How are these two tables tied together? There's going to be one relationship. What is the relationship? Residence ID is tied to residence ID. Residence ID here is the full primary key. Here it's the foreign key. That's what ties these two tables together. Build the tables, build a relationship, then you enter the information. Don't enter the information and then build the tables. Okay? Well, you can't do that. But don't build the tables, enter information, then build the relationships. Please do it in this order. When building the relationship, the link between the two tables should be a one-to-many link, and the following things should be set to on. Enforce referential integrity. Same way we built the relationship in class. Once the table is built, please enter at least 3 residences and 5 students. So you're going to enter data. 3 residents and 5 students. You don't have to build any forms, queries, or reports. Okay, that was just for informational. You don't have to build any of those things. Once you're done with these steps, I want you to take that resulting access database file that has the ending ACCDB. I want you to upload it to the assignment file. So I will grade it electronically, and that needs to be done by, didn't I say Wednesday? Yeah, it's Wednesday, October 22nd, not Friday. October 22nd is a Wednesday, right? Yeah, I just have a wrong day here, so it should be Wednesday, October 22nd. Questions that you have on that? So you have a week to do that. Don't wait until Tuesday night at midnight, or Wednesday at midnight. Just do Wednesday at midnight. Okay, start it now. If you have questions, bring them to class. I'll be more than happy to help address those. That's what they paid me to do here. So, any questions? Well, let me know. I like that. You guys think I'm like a machine, don't you? I do put some through it. You're right. I should have no excuse not to get that part back. You're right. Scantron I'll do, for sure. Scantron will be done.
That's part of our midterm.
No, midterm we had to do last week. So.
I actually won't be there tomorrow or Friday. I have to
Or
catch
golf.
a flight home.
Oh, okay. You're going up. Where do you live?
New Mexico.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I love the West. I've never been to New Mexico, but I spent a lot of time in Arizona. Not a
Yeah.
lot of time, but some time in Arizona and San Antonio. I love that area.
Yeah. I'm ready to get back to the hot weather.
Yeah, I think when, like, me and my wife, we talked about, you know, retiring and stuff, go to the South, but I'd rather go to the West. I like the West
Yeah.
much better. That's nice.
It's not humid there.
No, it's beautiful, too. I really enjoy that area.
All right.
Okay.